The Trump Organization is scrambling in damage control mode as a criminal probe continues into its financial dealings. The organization is stripping Allen Weisselberg from leadership roles more than we reported on last night. The indicted CFO booted off executive roles at more than 40 Trump Organization subsidiary companies. Records show Trump family members are now left in charge. So what's this all about? Is this a preview of its legal defense, throwing the indicted CFO under the bus? One headline saying, quote, Trump-tanic needs to stay afloat. MSNBC legal analyst Dan Goldman calling it a self-preservation that lays the foundation to argue that Weisselberg was a rogue actor. Weisselberg pleading not guilty to allegations of a 15-year off-the-books tax scheme and falsifying records. So the pressure is now ratcheted up on Trump and his organization, squeezing its CFO as prosecutors try to get him talking, and he knows all.
I think that all roads lead to Allen Weisselberg. I mean, all fingers point to him.
The only few people that in the Trump Organization that know anything about the taxes is Mr. Trump, who knows everything about everything, Allen Weisselberg, the chief financial officer.
What do you think he could tell investigators?
Everything they would ask.
Do you think he could be the ultimate tour guide into the Trump orbit?
Yes.
Allen Weisselberg made the decision. Always Allen Weisselberg on the check. Mr. Weisselberg, for sure.
Joining me now is Melissa Murray, law professor at NYU. Professor Murray, so I want to start with this. Yesterday, I mentioned that, look, Weisselberg going back to the office and realizing that his security key doesn't work at every door, that's got to be a pretty damaging and frustrating thing for him to experience. But we're now finding out that he's been cut from 40 different organizations within 40 different subsidiaries within the Trump Organization. From your perspective, do you think that there is a strategy to these cuts? Is the Trump Organization legally saying, all right, look, we got to cut him from this one, and this one, and then we can sort of cauterize the wound and isolate him? Or do you think this is just par for the course as they move towards either firing him or releasing some statement to blame it all on him?
It could be either or, Jason. And again, thanks for having me here. This could simply be prudent corporate governance. He's been an indicted CFO. He obviously has fiduciary responsibilities to those companies. That can be very difficult to maintain when someone is facing criminal charges, both from a perspective of time management and actually from a legal perspective. There may be jurisdictions where the work that he has to do as CFO is actually untenable because he has been criminally indicted. So that may be part of it. It may be part of a legal strategy to isolate him, to prepare an argument that he's going to be a rogue actor that will be used in the defense. So it's really hard to say at this point because we don't know what the prosecutors really have on Weisselberg, nor do we really know what they're seeking from him at this point.
Be a great action film. We have Individual One. Now we have Rogue One. I don't know what other code names we're going to get for the people involved in this organization. Here's the thing, though. How effective does that argument tend to be? Because if he's the only non-family member who's been at this organization for years and years and years, the only non-family member who's of this level of influence in the Trump Organization, is it plausible that Trump's legal defense team could say, we had no control over this guy and he was running roughshod over everything? I mean, how often are you able to place all the blame and scapegoat one member of your organization so everybody else can get free?
I think it's going to be really difficult to do in an organization that is essentially a family business. Certainly not impossible, but again, very difficult. I mean, I think you have to really sort of emphasize here that Allen Weisselberg really is the mastermind behind everything, and maybe Donald Trump is merely a figurehead. This may not necessarily be the narrative that former President Trump wants on the world stage, but it may be the most compelling one in terms of relieving him of criminal liability or limiting the exposure that he has going forward. But again, I think it's a very difficult case to make.
So, and I mentioned earlier that this so reminds me of like a season of Succession. They're just going to blame it on the guy who's not necessarily in the family. I want to play some quick audio for you and get your thoughts on the other side. How likely some people think it is that Allen Weisselberg will actually be the first person to flip.
I don't think Weisselberg would let his children go to jail. Weisselberg, he must be shaking in his boots.
All right, the reason I believe he'll flip, yes, is because since his behavior since 2017, what I've witnessed is that when he took over as trustee, he was not only nervous, but he started immediately hiding money in escrow confidentially.
Bottom line, Professor Murray, Can the prosecutors really go through with an effective case? Could they get at Ivanka? Could they get at Jared? Could they get at Don Jr.? Could they get at Donald Trump if Weisselberg doesn't flip? I mean, if he decides that he doesn't want to open up his mouth and take a bid for the rest of the team, will the prosecutors still be able to get anywhere with this investigation?
I think it really depends on what they have found in the course of their investigation. And we really don't know that right now. I mean, I think maybe secession isn't the right analogy for this. You know, maybe The Wire is the better analogy. Is Alan Weisselberg going to be WeBay and take a long bid for the team in order to preserve the top of the pyramid? Who knows? He's a 73-year-old man, I believe, facing what might be a prison sentence of some years, maybe not a lot of years. I think 10 years is the maximum sentence here. And he likely will spend less time in jail for that because he has no former criminal record. But it is a considerable amount of time. Maybe that will weigh on him. Who knows? But again, he is someone who has been enmeshed in the Trump family and the Trump organization for almost 50 years of his life. And he certainly knows that those who go against the family will certainly bear the wrath of Donald Trump. And that may also weigh in the favor of staying quiet.
The idea of Tom from Secession and WeBay from The Wire sharing a cell together is amazing. Melissa Murray, thank you so very much for joining us this evening.